I grew up as one of those gifted and talented students that was getting high 90% in the standardized tests. I never developed any study habits because I could always just take the exams and pass them, hardly do the homework ahead of time. And so I'd show up and do the homework in the time it took the teacher to go around and collect
Right.
it. So I always just relied on raw intellect. And so that set me up very poorly. And so once classes started getting difficult in high school, my performance started dropping
Okay.
precipitously because I didn't have study skills. I didn't know how to prepare for exams. I didn't have good sleep schedule habits, wasn't engaging with the content, wasn't doing much of the homework. College, I struggled. It took me 6.5 years to get through my degree. I did really poorly my first couple of semesters, actually got academically dismissed from my university
Really?
due to that poor performance.
Hi, Sterling.
Oh, I seem
How's it going?
it's going well. Just got my results back from the PE power exam.
Yeah,
Passed.
and you're a happy man. Congratulations. You got
Mhm.
it done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So took a little bit longer as we were discussing than expected to basically get it out of the way. You got it done in the first attempt though, and we'll go through your journey. But before we dive into your PE power, if you can give me a little bit of a background about when you graduated, when you started your licensing journey, passed the FE, and so
Mhm.
on.
Sure. So I graduated with my degree in electrical engineering from Iowa State University in December of 2021, and then immediately started studying uh, or I guess, so I interned at a company summer of my senior year of electrical engineering, and interned with them over the summer, worked for them part-time in the fall, and started studying for my FE.
I think you passed your
Yeah,
FE exam last year, correct?
yeah, it was February 2022, and I
Right,
graduated December of 2021. Yep, so I
right. So
started
within a year.
studying. Yeah, I started studying, at the end half of my senior year. I really started studying over that winter break
Right,
uh, after I graduated, and then passed the exam in the beginning of February.
right.
On my first attempt, I had about 46 hours total of studying in between watching the lectures in Wasim's course and doing the practice exams. Uh,
Right.
I kept track of every half hour that I was studying, and then immediately after that, I started in on the power exam prep course.
So that
Uh,
was around March time, right? End of Feb,
yeah,
March, yeah,
yep,
2022.
yeah. So I started in on that, got a good way through the lectures, about 80% of the way through the course. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was planning on taking it roughly in December, and then I got complacent and paused all of my studying for the last couple of months of the year, and then picked it back up here in really in February,
February, yeah.
mid-February. Studied all through February for the PE power course, and took that exam March 1st,
Right.
and and passed that first attempt. The PE exam prep, I had about 68 or so hours of total studying in,
It's really
between
impressive.
watching all the lectures and doing all the practice exams. I had about 36 hours or so in uh, when I left off, when I paused studying. So then in the last month, I averaged over an hour of studying a day to
So
really crack.
68 hours sterling, that's total time or that's just the course?
Yeah, that's total time. So that's time spent watching the lectures. That's time spent taking the practice exams. Time spent like looking up alternate explanations if there was a subject I wasn't
Right.
comfortable. So
So
that
your
was,
whole PE power project was 68 hours.
yeah,
And you exclusively relied on my on-demand program for PE
correct.
power, right?
Yep.
You did the NC sample as well, I assume?
I actually didn't I had the NCS handbook, but I did not take the NCS practice exam. I
Okay.
ran myself out of time for that.
Okay. Well, yeah. So it's interesting. Like you were so slowly humming along, progressing along with your preparation. Then you basically dropped the ball, and then within a short period of time, you picked it all up and then consolidated and packed a nice punch and got done with it in the first attempt. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I told myself, like, I was like, I kept putting off scheduling the exam. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to schedule it as soon as I possibly can. If I could take it tomorrow, I'll just take it. If I pass it,
Yeah.
great. Don't have to worry anymore. But I took it with the mentality of like, I'm just going to go and fail the exam just to get exposed to it, see what
Sure.
questions are on it, get some experience with it, and that'll let me focus my studying efforts more instead
Right.
of waiting until I feel prepared to take it. Just take it as soon as
Right.
I can. And it's a couple $100. It's cheaper to take the course and fail it than it is to, study for another 6 months.
Yeah.
And so
The time value of money, right?
yes, exactly. Yeah, time value of money and the course is well worth the money, but it's certainly not free either. And
Right.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, I just decided I was going to take it early whether I felt prepared or not. And so that
Sure.
impacted my studying strategy for it. And
So
yes,
for the FE, the total
Mhm.
time spent and you were tracking in half-hour increments was 100
Yes.
hours, right?
It was, let me grab my phone here and look that up exactly. I think it was something around
Oh,
46.
40, 46, 48, sorry,
Yes,
48
I
hours.
had 46 hours and 40 minutes for the FE, and I
Wow.
had 66 hours and 40 minutes for the PE.
Right.
So I tracked my time using an app called like productivity. Um, what's it called? Productivity challenge timer. And
That's
so it would
great.
give me uh, I could set how long each work session was, and then
Nice.
have it up on my phone, and it would keep track of my time
That's
on
great.
it and encourage me to not look at my phone while I'm studying. And so
Right.
that
So if you don't mind me asking this question, Sterling, how did you do in school?
I I guess I grew up as one of those gifted and talented students that was getting high 90% in the standardized tests. I never developed any study habits because I could always like I could show up and just
Pick things
brute
up.
force the exam. Yeah, just take the exams and pass them. I would hardly do the homework ahead of time, and so I'd show up and do the homework in the time it took the teacher to go around and collect it.
Sure.
So I always just relied on raw intellect, and so that set me up very poorly. And so once classes started getting difficult in high school, my performance started dropping
Okay.
precipitously because I didn't have study skills. I didn't know how to prepare for exams. Um, I didn't have good sleep schedule habits.
Right.
I wasn't engaging with the content, wasn't doing much of the homework. And then in college, I struggled. It took me 6.5 years. Um, yeah, 6.5 years to get through uh, my degree. Uh,
Okay.
I did really poorly my first couple of semesters. I actually got academically dismissed from my university
Really?
due to that poor performance.
Wow.
And so then I went to a local community college, got a couple of yeah, associate's degrees, and then came back to university, and I ended up graduating with a 2 point low is what I call it because it was like
Sure.
below a 2.5
That's
GPA,
fine.
but I
Yeah.
did graduate. Um, and so I never really picked up those study habits. And so
Okay.
for these two, the FE and really for the PE, I really started to get into like actually reviewing the content.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I feel like I have some decent study habits, and then test taking skills as well was something I never developed until these two courses.
Well, that's an interesting story, and I honestly didn't know. But based on the questions that you were asking me, and as I told you in our email correspondence as well, you're a pretty detail-oriented, sharp guy. Things that you were pointing out that would seem, strictly speaking, this is probably not correct. In FE, you send me a bunch of those emails, especially for the computer sections and whatnot. And then I
Mhm.
thought about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, he has a point. So I knew that you're pretty smart smart guy can make these observations. But thanks a lot for sharing that story. And then it has multiple lessons for everyone, right? So if you're just
Mhm.
solely reliant on your intellect, I mean, that will help you. Obviously, it's better to be gifted with that as compared not to, but that's not in our control.
Yeah, and it doesn't
It
it,
doesn't compensate for discipline and hard work and
yes, and
routines.
leads to a lot of stress because you're not confident in your abilities, and
Right.
because I didn't apply myself, I wasn't able to take any pride in when I did something well because I didn't work at it. I didn't put any
Yeah.
effort into it. I didn't have
It
any
came
skin in
easy.
the game. And
Came easy.
then it led to me not I wasn't taking pride in my work because I wasn't working at it very hard. And
That's good. No, I
and
appreciate you sharing that, Sterling, and hopefully some of the viewers can relate to that. Those of you guys who are very disciplined, take pride in the fact, and those of you who for stuff comes easy, I mean, be thankful, but capitalize on it,
yeah.
because just having that pure intellect, and I could tell, I made that comment even before our interviews when we were discussing that. I could tell you're a pretty sharp student. Okay, so the other thing that I want to that stands out from your journey is the fact that you took both of these exams even before your 4 years of experience completion,
Mhm.
and by being out of school for less than 1.5 years. So you graduated in
Mhm. Yeah,
2021
mid
December,
2021.
and here we are March 2023, and you have knocked out both of these exams, right?
Hmm.
So what's your approach? Like, why would you recommend other students who are sort of on that fence, thinking about I'll do it later type of stuff?
So I think there were several topics. So I took the PE Power exam, and my employer, I work in engineering consulting as a
Good.
electrical engineer in water and wastewater.
Sure.
And so if you were trying to take the PE exam without any on-the-job experience, there's a fair amount of new content that
Yes.
you would have to learn for it, particularly
Codes.
the three-phase power analysis, the codes,
Yeah.
um, working with different switchgear,
Yeah.
and protective relaying and whatnot. That's all content that was not covered during any of the electrical engineering uh, coursework or for the fundamentals of engineering exam.
Right.
And so being able to work with that on the job uh, gave a lot more hands-on ish, as hands-on as engineering consulting can be, hands-on experience with the content. So that helped learn it. So I was very familiar with the National Electric Code going into this. So it helped there. There were a lot of things that I learned in my first year on the job that applied directly to the
Sure.
PE Power um, Principles of Engineering exam. Um, However, waiting more than 6 months to a year, there's not anything more. Like I'm not going to be exposed to that much more content. So there's diminishing returns to it. So
Right.
I would say graduate, take your take
FE.
your
No
FE as
brainer. Yeah.
soon as you can. If
Yeah.
you can take it before your finals,
For sure.
you'll probably be okay with that because
Even
it's not
better.
as yeah, it's a very broad topic, but it's not as
Mhm.
deep as your finals are going to be in whatever college course
Yeah.
you're in. And then study for the next 6 months to a year for the PE, depending on how much time you can dedicate to it, and that on the job experience will help there. But you'll get diminishing returns after about 6 months or so.
Right. Did you also experience that by completing your PE Power exam preparation, it actually, from if you look at it from the standpoint of exam helping you with your job, did you also experience that by taking a deep
Yes,
dive into PE Power, you were able to make more sense of things at work?
absolutely. I have a direct example of that if I can share. I something I struggled with through college was like doing like phasor transformations and working with complex power. That was something that I had to relearn several times through college, and then had to relearn again for the PE. And in engaging with that content, doing space repetition, learning it, delving into it, getting comfortable with it, that allowed me to um, delve into. We had a spreadsheet that was doing voltage drop calculations for some three-phase power, and we were looking up some online. There was a question as far as why, we were doubling the size of a conductor, but the voltage drop wasn't getting cut in half. And so that we were checking some of our voltage drop calculations against some online calculators, and they were giving different voltage drop percentages than our own internal spreadsheet was using. And so I had a fair amount of time to be able to delve into it and run it to ground, and re-derived like how you do a voltage drop calculation based on the resistivity of the conductor, the temperature correction, and then looking into both the impedance and resistance values of the wire.
Right.
So with AC, then you've got impedance based on the frequency, and so being able to find where things were at in the code book, it's chapter 9, table 8 and 9 give
Table
you
9, yeah.
Give you the resistance values and the impedance values. But I was able to be comfortable and confident in my ability to do the calculations by hand and go, okay, this online calculator was giving us different results. It was giving us a lower voltage drop than our calculator was, because the online calculator wasn't taking into account the skin effect. So it was using the DC resistance value instead of the AC resistance value for it.
Right.
So it gave me the confidence to know, okay, our own internal spreadsheet, the way that it was doing its math wasn't immediately intuitive, because it was just giving this factor that it was multiplying by the amps and the distance. Sure. But being able to rederive the equation and solve it, and I was getting results that were like 98% of the factor that was in the table. So I was able to validate that our table was correct. Where whatever engineer did that many years ago, they did things correctly, and the values haven't changed.
How did it feel, Sterling, to have that in-depth knowledge and be able to connect the dots and present your case and, provide some insights in practice at work, rather than so far up until you graduate, the typical setup is that you become book smart. But when you're able to connect theory with application, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's exciting because I am comfortable enough with it that I can bring it to my supervisor and be like, hey, I figured out why this is working and why this line calculator isn't. I can quickly step through, like, okay, like here's the basic formula, like here's where those parts are coming from, and like just quickly draw it out on a napkin and be confident that I'm not mixing up a variable or anything. I don't have to memorize it, I understand it. And then being able to use that directly on there just gives a bit of pride, instead of just
copy pasting.
I'm told and following directions.
Exactly.
Be like, okay, I understand how this works. I understand why it's working that way, and the different factors playing into it makes it a lot less daunting.
Right, and more relatable as well. That know that whatever you're doing has some practical applications, rather than just using the formulas mindlessly. So I mean, that's great. I mean, it's already starting to reap some intrinsic rewards, right? The pride that you talked about, and that self-confidence and getting the recognition. So these are all hallmarks of good electrical engineer, good engineer in general, good professional in general. You're not a PE yet because you have to fulfill the 4-year experience requirement, but it's just a matter of time, right? So once again, many congratulations to you, Sterling, for making it happen in less than 1.5 hours of your years of your graduation in record time, and big takeaways for a lot of students, a lot of viewers who are watching this. And I wish you best of luck for your future career endeavors.
Thank you.